afternoon. So as Alice said, my name is yemi.oluseun. So it's my delight to be here. I've spent the last 14 years of my career helping various organizations scale and expand into new markets. And for my work, I've won a number of awards, which we're not going to go into now because we've got a very limited time to go into a lot of information together. My goal for this session is to fit in as much value as I can fit into this for the next, say, 40 minutes, and then leave about 20 minutes at the end for questions. So please, as Ali said, let's keep it interactive. Ask me as many questions as you want to. I'm going to try to keep an eye on the chat as we proceed. And hey, this is not going to be one of them sessions where you just stay mute because I'm going to keep you guys interactive. You're going to have to keep putting stuff for me in the chat. So get ready to engage with me. All I ask is that you have pen and paper ready because it's going to be a lot of information I'm going to be giving now. So please have pen and paper ready and please ask me questions as we said. So great to be here. Let's kick off. Then, so the number one objective I have for this session today is to take you through what I believe is the 7 main steps towards any growth journey for any business. So from when you have the first idea of like, oh, I've got a business idea, to the point where you're ready to maybe sell it or even expand to new markets or do something with the business. And there's 7 key steps. But what I tend to find is that most business owners that I work with tend to start from step 3. So they either start from, oh, I've got this product idea, and they skip step 1 and 2. So they don't really think about who they are as themselves, like their personality, what kind of business they want to build, what kind of vision, mission, all of that is skipped, or even understanding what the problem is that's going to drive the customer to their solution that they're selling. They're so focused on the solution. And then they skip number 4 as well, which is like, oh, do I have product market fit? Like, how do I know that the product I have, the market also wants it, and I have a repeatable process of selling this product. So they skip that part and they go right into step 5, which is like, oh, how do I get as many people to buy this product that I've got, right? So they're thinking about like, how can I run as many ads, or how can I do SEO optimization, or how can I do all this marketing tactics to sell my product. And 6 and 7 probably never happens because of all the gaps in between. So my intention for this call really, or this meeting, this session, is to take you through what I believe are the 7 key milestones. Now, we're all probably going to be at different levels of our businesses. For some of you, some of them would already be covered. But the idea of it is, if there are any gaps in your business process, that I want to invite you to consider going back and retrospectively closing those gaps. Because I find that when I'm working with businesses, it's the gaps that they haven't addressed that becomes the issue and becomes the reason why you start having problems towards the end. So let's go slowly through each one.
Sorry, I just saw your hand waving then if you want to.
I think someone got really excited about the steps. So the first one being awareness, right? So before you start any kind of skill journey, I always tell my business owners and my entrepreneurs is like, first of all, start by knowing who you are. Like, what are your own strengths? What are your own capabilities? What are your weaknesses? Your own SWOT analysis on yourself first. Then work on like your business. So what's the vision that you have for this business? What's the mission statement you have for it? I have that clearly defined. Then we'll move on to number 2. Number 2 is more about defining how big the market is, how grand is it, what's the pain point that the customer already has. Is this market even big enough to want to grow in? Because sometimes you're trying to grow in impossible circumstances, right? Because the market is so small, even if you put in all the ammunition you have in the world, it's never going to grow beyond that because it's such a small marketplace. So is that your case right now? Number 3 is, I think most of this probably, a lot of us probably have quite well already, is really defining what the solution is and being able to articulate it in a way that your customer understands and it just speaks to their heart and like, oh, that's me. This solution speaks to. Number 4 is around finding product market fit. So it's the product I have, how can I sell it to the market consistently in a repeatable fashion such that I can delegate this task to somebody else, go on holiday, and they can sell it all day long, even if I'm not here. Number 5 is more around defining the full customer journey from the point of when the customer first hears about you to when they make the first purchase, and then making sure they make recurring purchases and you can keep them for as long as possible. So really increasing the lifetime value of the customer. Number 6 is around automating your business. So as you're growing and growing so quickly, chances are very good that you have picked up bad habits and you've picked up like inefficiencies in the process. And now you've grown so quickly that you now have this almost inefficient machine. So number 6 is about looking at your full end-to-end process and then cleaning it out to remove any redundant steps. And number 7 is once you have this lean mean machine, what do you want to do now? Do you want to go into a new market? Do you want to sell it? Do you want to, the options start to open up to you. So those are the 7 key things we're going to be covering in this session. How does that sound? Can I just get quickly in the chat, which of the steps are you most excited about learning? Which of these are, Sam says, haha, I definitely relate well to that. Which step is it, Sam? Sorry, I took my eyes off the chat. I didn't see that when you put it in. So can I just ask everybody, which of the steps seems like, oh my God, I really want to hear more of that. So I know where to, oh my, 5 to 7. I tell you, that seems like your mature business. Step 6, interesting, okay. I need all of them. Maria, I hear you, 4 to 7, step 5. Oh, interesting. Okay. So it sounds like people here have very advanced businesses because you guys are asking for the higher numbers. Okay, this is good to know. Thank you, because then it helps me to know how to allocate the time on the session. Okay, thank you. So let's kick off then. Thank you for that, guys. So I just wanted to just reiterate. So the risks of missing steps. These are the 3 things that tend to happen when people miss steps or skip steps. First one is you end up building a solution that nobody wants. To my point earlier, you end up building a solution that is now looking for a problem. You have a solution and nobody really wants to buy it because you can't eventually find a market when you spend so much time on this solution. Step 2 is you end up attracting the wrong stakeholders. And stakeholders is not just investors, it's employees, clients, investors, suppliers, the whole works. Everybody associated with your business is a stakeholder, right? So you end up attracting stakeholders that are not a cultural fit to your organization. And that's when you have all the hiring problems or investor problems, because you haven't taken the time out to define what your own values or your own cultures are. So it's hard to keep up and to use that as a barrier or as a barometer for decision making. And number 3, most importantly, if you're not careful, you end up chasing vanity metrics, right? You end up chasing the likes on Facebook or chasing higher valuations for my fintech and tech guys. Again, that means when you're chasing higher valuations, you're then probably working with the wrong investor. So you're looking for the guy that has the biggest valuation to buy or to invest in your business that may or may not have the right values for your company. And then the whole thing just becomes a mess. Or in the case of the guys that ends up in the front of a newspaper chasing profits at all costs without the values, because again, the values were not front and center. I just want to share this quick video with us quickly of a CEO that got it wrong, because sometimes I think when I say this, we're like, oh, come on, it's not that big a deal. I want to share, it's a 40-second video. So it's a 40-second video. I just want you to see. Please let me know if you can hear the audio first before we get started. Alice, can you help me? Can you hear the audio?
I can't hear the audio, but that could just be
Oh,
me.
no. I have no. Sometimes the audio doesn't work, and I didn't figure out how to share the audio. Oh well, you're gonna have access to this later on, so you guys can listen to the. Let's go share sound. That's it. That's why I use it. Share sound. Let's try. It's not be technical.
My number one biggest mistake as CEO, for sure, was choosing the wrong investor. And frankly, the business almost went under because of it. So in our Series C fundraise, which was $30 million, we went with an investment partner that had given us one of the highest valuations that we saw, and we jumped at it. Unfortunately, the next 3 years were pretty much hell. He tried to push myself, the founding team, and management out of the company, and he pretty much paralyzed the company. It was like we had a sickness, didn't know how to get rid of it. The culture tanked, performance started dropping even more, and eventually I was able to rally the existing investors to put in more money to buy this partner out, and we finally were able to get him out of the company. And not surprisingly, the company rebounded almost immediately, and over time became a $1 billion company.
So what do you guys think about that video? I suppose that's an example of what could happen when you have the wrong investor, right? So just one bad apple could corrupt the entire basket. So this is why this stuff is so important. Being sure or being clear on what your own values are and who you want to have around you, because otherwise you open up the show to sharks potentially. So this is why I suppose all of this is important. So let's get started. Before we get into any of this, I wanted to share with you some quick theory points on scaling, just to make sure we have the same baseline understanding. And then we get into the steps, the 7 steps that we talked about. First is scaling does not need to be a rat race. So when I talk about scaling, people think, oh, we just have to just go faster. I just go faster, 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 faster. But I actually think the faster you try to go, the more mistakes could potentially start to happen, right? And everybody gets overwhelmed and nobody knows what they're doing. So it doesn't need to be this. It could be a systematic and structured approach. And that's my intention, or what I'm hoping to get you to in this session together. Second thing is there are 4 stages of growth. So most businesses will go through these 4 stages, right? So you go from having the idea, and usually at idea stage, these are very loose definitions of the kind of behaviors that the businesses tend to show when they're at the stages. Don't use it as a hard rule. This is as a guide, right? So at idea stage, usually you're under $1 million. It's all dollars. Dollars is the currency of trade, right? So, but you guys, you can change this to pounds if it works. It's just I do this on international audience, so dollars tends to work better. So under £1 million, about similar. So between 0 to 7 employees. And usually the concern here, or your priority here, is really defining what the solution is or the product that you wanted to sell, and really having that repeatable sales process. That is the main priority for that stage of business. Fast growth, you're now under a 10 mil revenue and you have under 50 employees. And at that point, you're looking to add additional product lines to your product offerings. And the reason behind that is you want to increase the lifetime value of your customers, right? So you have this customer that's already buying X product from you, but you think if I can sell Y and maybe Z as well, I can maybe get them to spend even more with me and increase the lifetime value, the LTV of the customer by doing so. So that's the stage of growth that you're in. At maturity, you're under 5 mil, you have under 250 employees, and your priority at that point is, how do I make this process a lot efficient? Because now I've grown so quickly, I've got all these customers, I'm selling them lots of different exotic products. Maybe it's not as standardized as you would like. So for this client, you do something slightly different. For this, you do something else, and on and on and on. So you got all these customized processes, and it's all a bit confusing. So it's how do I standardize the process such that it's clean and easier to run and the inefficiencies are gone. And at the final stage is where most corporations tend to be, right? Is they're now like huge beasts, big to fail, slow to change. And the focus at that point is how do we stay innovative? How do we make sure that we don't get sloppy and complacent, that small competitors can come into the market and just take away our market share? Like, because they're now the cruise ship and you can have your little jet skis come in and take markets because they're a lot more agile. So those tend to be the stages of growth. So again, in the chat, people, so based on that, can I just ask, where do people think they are in their business? Idea, fast growth, maturity, renewal. Great, thank you, Sam. Idea, that looks good. Thank you. Idea sounds good. Thank you, guys.
Hello.
Amazing. Was somebody unmuting to talk to me? Hello.
Yes, Raymond Hope.
Hey, Raymond, thank you for.
I'm currently paying for HubSpot's platform.
Okay.
I just need to write the business plan and get a grant, and then I can start up running. And
Amazing.
I need a bit of support with my manufacturer supplier, how to sell my products on the platform as well, on the e-commerce website, and I'll be up and running.
Beyond the scope of what I'm covering here today, but if you want, we can book a session afterwards to talk about that.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So let's kick off. So thank you guys for telling me the stages of your growth. Thank you, Raymond, as well. So in terms of growth, the last theory point I wanted to cover is there are only really 3 ways to grow your business if you think about it. Like, I know there's all these exotic theories that you get, but ultimately there are 3 parts of a business, right? You've got your sales, your marketing, your operations. And growth happens within an intersection of any of those 2 functions. So if you improve your sales and your marketing, you can probably get more customers. That's one way. If you improve your sales and your operations, if you reduce your cost of sales or your cost of goods produced, you can reduce your operational cost and maybe improve the process and improve the product itself. And for that reason, be able to increase prices because now you're offering more value. The third way to do it is to improve your customer retention. So it's to sell more products to your existing customer base. So these are really the three ways that you have to grow. These are the three options really that we have to play with. Of the three, the easiest one to do, of course, is to really just increase the prices, right? Is just increase the prices and you don't have to worry about doing anything else. So the most optimal of the three is two. But of course, you can only really start to increase prices if the clearer you are on your market, the clearer you are on your niche, on your value, then you can start to ask for more prices and do so confidently because you know you're giving the customer more value. Again, that emphasizes the reason why you need to spend time on that customer and that problem statement definition, because the more you know the problem, the more you can know how much you can get from the market for solving that problem. Hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, let me know if it doesn't make sense in the chat. Cool, but let's keep going. I'm keeping an eye on the chat. Nobody said that. Okay, cool. And then finally, with growth, there are 4 main catalysts for growth. People just think about grants and capital as the only way to grow, but there are other ways that you can also accelerate your growth. You can accelerate your growth by collaborating with professionals, so like looking to hire, getting advisory, so mentoring, which is what Digital Boost offers, can be a way to scale it, because essentially you're borrowing that person's brain power for a certain period of time to look at your business and help you see what you're not seeing. So that's one way. The third way to do it as well is just to find ways to automate your process. Like, so when you're spending a lot of your own time doing things manually, if you can automate it, then it frees up your capacity to do more strategic stuff that would then bring growth to your business. And then the fourth one being social media. So, or media in general. So finding ways to get more eyeballs on your product and your services. I think it's important to know that there are these options, because otherwise we get so fixated on, I need to go raise money or I need to get a grant. It's like, maybe, but maybe in the interim, there's other things you can do as well to grow your business. That's what this is. Okay, so who's ready to get into the 4 steps? Can I get a yes in the chat? Let's get into it. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you, Sam. One more person. Yes, thank you so much. Thank you, guys. Okay, let's get started. So these are the 7 steps again. Let's get started with step number 1. Step number 1 is self-awareness. So when I work with leaders, and by the way, I'm going through this really quickly because we only have an hour. Usually I have about 2 hours to run this thing. So I want to give you guys as much as possible in an hour. So please, if it's going too fast, let me know and I'll slow down. But with awareness, when I work with leaders that are scaling or are doing really well, either as entrepreneurs, so like business leaders within an executive function in a corporation, or CEO startup founders or small business owners, there are 3 skill sets that they tend to have, or that they tend to be able to augment for quite quickly. They don't have it themselves. The skill sets are clarity of purpose. So they are visionary. They are like what you would call in business startup world, the founder, right? They're the one that had the vision for what could be, like what they wanted to create, the idea guy. So you have the visionary person. The second skill set they have is commercial awareness. So they're very good at strategizing. So taking this big vision and then breaking it down into a 5-year plan. So like from see the future, have a dream that one day something, the Martin Luther King dream, right? Taking that dream and then breaking it down into like, so this year, 5 years from now, 2 years from now, what needs to happen, so that it's actually actionable. So if you think about it, they're really the CEOs. That's a CEO type function. So you have the founder, the CEO. And the third set of skills that they have is they're actually technically competent. So they're good at doing the doing, right? So you define the strategy, somebody actually has to execute on that strategy, right? So they also probably have like some CEO type functionality or some finance skills, or in a technology company, development skills. So they're good at actually delivering something that executes on the strategy. So those are the 3 skill sets that at the very minimum, any successful business, so either the owner themselves has it and they're fully autonomous to some degree, so they're a solopreneur and they've got all of these things covered, and where they need help, they augment it with freelancers, or they have a founding team of people around them that bring in these various skill sets to help develop the business. When any of the skill sets are missing, the way it looks like, and this is not labeling people, this is how it looks like for me and also for them, people I've worked with. they either come across as superficial. So when they're very clear on their vision, they're clear on how to sell, but they're not very technically competent. They come across as superficial, right? So when you speak to them, they can tell you all this high generalized information. But when you try and go a little bit below the surface, it's like, oh, there's nothing there. It's hard. They're like the product, the product, the product, big management jargon, but not enough substance there. That's how it comes across. So it's superficial. That's what it looks like when it's not holistic. When you have someone that has the clarity of vision, so they have the idea dialed down, they're also technically competent, but they're not as commercially aware, they can sometimes come across as idealistic, right? So it's like, I have the solution. Why can't the whole world just see that this is the best? Like, why can't they just get it? No, they won't get it unless you tell them. You have to find a way to explain it to them, because nobody woke up bed in the morning thinking, oh, I think I should get your product. Like, very few people wake up thinking that, right? This is why Coca-Cola still needs to advertise and remind you that they're there, right? They don't stay in an idealistic world. They know that sales and marketing are important at any stage of the business. And then finally, if you don't have the leaders that I find that lose their clarity of purpose, right? So they're commercially good, they're great at their sales and marketing, they're great at delivering like good quality products, but for whatever reason, they've lost their sense of vision and their sense of where they're going. They become hustlers. And that's like the video we saw earlier, right? With Chum. He lost his vision of where he was going, the kind of company he wanted to build, the mission, the culture. That all went away, and it was just hustling for who has the biggest valuation, who has the biggest profit. And it's like anything would go. And they almost feel soulless sometimes, working with these people. So those tend to be like the key skills that you see the leaders have. And it's so important, I think, to sit as a business leader and assess yourself and know where you are across the spectrum. And by the way, it's not static, because one day you will be feeling like, oh my God, I'm this dynamic, amazing leader. I've got a real great balance. The marketplace is not static. So with especially technology changing every 5 minutes, just when you feel, oh my God, I'm technically competent, I know exactly what I need to do, and blah, 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 blah. The world changes around you, and you can go from being like dynamic to feeling superficial the next minute. So it's constantly shifting. But you probably will have a tendency of where you tend to hang out or spend most of your time. It's important to know that for yourself, because when you then realize that, okay, this is where I probably need to hire for help, or I need to make sure I have an advisor, if you have a board for your company, for example, that would constantly supplement me and know that I have a blind spot there and can proactively look into it for me. So with clarity of purpose, because what I then get is, but how do I build or strengthen this skill? If I don't have any of these skills, how do I strengthen it? And that's what I've tried to include on the right-hand side of this slide, right? Is I think the best tool for defining your clarity or your purpose, your reason for being, is a tool called Ikigai. Have any of you heard of Ikigai on the call? Can I get yeses or nos? Ikigai. Says a Japanese. Yes, love it. Thank you, Sam. No, yes, so it's a mix. Great. Yeah. But I find Ikigai a really good starting point for really defining your reason for being and knowing yourself. There are other tools that you can use as well in between, but we'll talk about that. So I'll spend a bit of time defining Ikigai and how to really get to your Ikigai for yourself if you don't have that. With commercial awareness, a lot of it is developing your own sales and marketing skills, and being able to clearly articulate what the problem the customer is having and what the product can do. Again, we'll talk a lot about that in this session. But I think more importantly, it's also to some degree finding who the current best in class is for your marketplace. Like, so who is 5 years ahead of you, 3 years ahead of where you want to be, and spending some time reviewing and doing some competitor analysis, saying what do they currently do, what's currently working in my marketplace, and what can I learn? Not copy like for like, but what can I learn from this person that is already 5 years ahead of me? I think any more than 5 years sometimes tends to be just too far away to be a learning point. So finding somebody that you can model or inspires you, but ideally within the same kind of industry, helps a lot as well with you, with growing. Because I think the biggest problem when you're an entrepreneur is loneliness and isolation. Is you're surrounded by people that are working for you, and it's like, who am I looking up to? So it's important to have that, because it helps to sharpen you. So the way I'll do that is finding someone 3 to 5 years ahead. And these days, LinkedIn makes it so easy to stalk people, right? So it's find them, check out what they're doing. Are they speaking at conferences? What kind of courses are they going on? How are they developing themselves? And then competence, I'm sure most of us probably already have it, but I think where I find most business owners lacking is with things like getting referrals. So it's like you do good work for somebody, get them to give you a review, get them to, because ultimately, your competence is not about you just knowing that you are good at what you do. It's about other people also acknowledging that you're good at what you do, because otherwise you're blowing your own tooth, right? It's like you want the social proof from other people that says, yes, she's great. So it's not just getting certifications and all these qualifications, but it's also where possible, get awards, apply for awards where possible, get affiliations, associate with the right people, get advisors on your team who have credibility that they can then transfer onto your company by association. So these are the things I think if you're not already doing your company, they help in your scaling journey. So please make a note of action points in terms of awareness of any gaps that you might have. So quickly, Ikigai, because we're going to run out of time, I'm just going to quickly zip through Ikigai because I think it's so useful. But this is the Ikigai model, right? It's a Venn diagram as well. And it's the intersection between where what you love meets what you're good at, what you can be paid for, and what the world needs. The question I then get is, but how do I know what I love? I don't always know what I love. I feel like my habits, my passions change every passing day. And I've got a tool for you again. If you're struggling with any of these 4 circles, I want to suggest a few tools that can help. So with passion, there's this tool called Career Anchors. It was developed by some MIT professor, and he essentially groups people into 8 categories of passions that they have, right? So some of us like technical functions, right? We like getting in there and getting our hands dirty and, like fixing things. That's what sets us on fire. Am I still here? It says I've been logged out. Okay, I'm here, right? Very cool. And some of us are very into general management kind of stuff. So we want to build a conglomerate and have like all this multiple branches, some in lots of different countries. Some people like their autonomy. They want to work alone, solo, do what they want, go with the flow, solopreneur type vibes. Some people are more into security and stability, or some people are more lifestyle. So it's important to know, I suppose, which of these kind of traits or styles are most aligned with your personality, because it informs things like, if, for example, you decide you want to go raise money from investors and you like autonomy, then you have to realize that you're going to be giving away part of your autonomy to do that, right? Because now you're accountable to this. Unless, of course, they're just an angel that's just giving you money without the kind of thing you want to build, is a starting point. Second is what you're good at, is what are your strengths? And I think one of the best tools for doing this is the Myers-Briggs. So it gives you, essentially, it evaluates you across 4 paradigms or 4 parameters. It's, are you introverted or extroverted? Are you a thinker or a sensor? No, are you a are you a thinker, or are you a sensor or intuitive? Like, do you have to see, touch, smell, feel things, or can you just do stuff from your gut intuition? The third one being, are you a thinker, or do you feel like, I feel like, or I think? How do you tend to process the world? And then the fourth one being, are you very much decisive, judgmental, and you decide, or are you like a let's keep options open and just let's see how it goes kind of vibe? So across those 4 things is what it judges people, and it tries to categorize people rather, and it comes up with like 16 different categories of personality styles. I think it's important to know which personality style you are as well. Again, you can do this test quite quickly on the internet, so just Google it, because it gives you an idea of your strengths, your weaknesses, the things you tend to do well, and the things you may not do so well. Because again, the first step in any change journey is awareness. And secondly, it's important to know what you're not so good at. Tool for this is this saboteur assessment. Again, just Google it and it'll come up. But as business owners, we get stressed and we're not always operating in the most optimal conditions. What this tool tells you is how you behave when you're stressed, is what are you like when you're at your worst. Again, knowledge of that means that you're able to prepare your team and prepare yourself and prepare people around you, so that if, for example, you get into hyperachiever mode, people know, okay, I think she's stressed. I think things are not going so well. And they can start to put in things to help you, or you can put in things proactively to help you when you're kind of off kilter. Because again, knowledge is the starting point for this. And then finally, I think, finally, this is the penultimate one, is knowing what the world needs. So it's looking at so the UN put together 17 goals that categorizes the main pain points in the world, the things that the world needs right now solving. I think it's a good starting point when you want to think about like which mission do I want to align with, or which mission does my business align with, because it gives you and your business and your team a mission that is bigger than just themselves. So you know that, for example, every day you go to work, you're taking a step towards, I don't know, say solving world poverty, or taking a step towards making animals better. And having that vision and that bigger picture gives a sense of purpose that is just bigger than me, myself, and I, and can be the propelling factor, or then either attract resources, attract the right people to you that also share the same mission and vision that you have. So I think it's important to review this, because you don't have to use this, by the way. I just think it's a good starting point. If you're struggling about thinking about, oh, but what does the world need, and how can I be sure that, or how can I create something that the world needs? I think this is a good starting point to help with that. Vacation, I'm going to skip because I'm sure all of you already have businesses where you know what the world can pay for, because your business is what that is. But I do this for some guys that are like, I'm not even sure where to start. I don't know what the world wants. So I would have said try ChatGPT actually, because it's actually pretty useful, because you can tell you can give it all the variables that we've just come up with and say, here are my strengths, here are my weaknesses, here's what I think the world needs. Give me potential business ideas, and it would actually give you some ideas that can start the thought process going. So that's what that is. So again, most leaders have this three skill sets. So if you don't have it, it's important to know which ones you tend to be deficient on, so you can hire for it and proactively plug the gaps. Secondly is your business. So your business itself, have you defined a clear vision, a clear mission, a clear set of values that are important to your business? And having these three parameters then inform your strategy. So your strategy is what? So the example I'm giving here is an example of a B2B, so a business-to-business fintech, financial technology startup. And the vision is they believe that small businesses are at the heart of any economy or any function in society. And for businesses to grow, they have to have access to sustainable finance. So what they are on a mission to do is to provide sustainable finance to small businesses in developing countries. And the core values, so the way they're going to behave to achieve this vision and mission, is respect, impact. They want to have a remote first culture, and excellence is important to them, right? So they've defined what their core values are. Again, this is important because this would then inform any decision makers. If you get to a fork in the road and you have to decide, you can then run it through your values. If you're hiring people and have to decide, I did the right fit for me, you can base it on your values. So values are not just an academic exercise that you do once and you forget. No, it's essentially a case of like the principles that define how we are going to work together and how we're going to get to our goals. And strategy is what you're going to do to solve the problem that you've identified, or to create the vision that you want. And objectives are the main task. So at strategy level is where the CEO steps in. So all of these three are kind of your founder, your idea. So think about the three circles. So this is where the visionary defines. At strategy level is where you as the CEO or the CEO of the business defines the strategy of how we're going to get to where we're going to get to. And then you break the strategy into steps, which is one, because this is probably, the strategy is probably like a 5-year horizon. Your objective is more like a 3-month or 1-year type horizon, right? So it's what is the objective you're going to take to hit each of the strategy points, and then how would you know you've achieved it, right? And you can start that even at idea stages, so I think it's important to have something like this defined for your business, because then that guides any kind of decision making or processes or changes. So that's it for awareness, right? Second thing I wanted to cover, because I need to go really quickly now for time, problem statement. 4 things you want to do on your problem statement section, if you haven't done it already, is identify a problem. I think most of us already know the problem we're looking to solve. Interview potential customers. I think this is so important. If I tell you the number of times business owners don't really talk to potential customers and just think, or we think we know what people want, and that gets us into trouble, that's where the problem starts, right? So talk to your potential customers, listen for the kind of words and the language they use to describe the problems, so that when you come to marketing back to them, you can use the same language that they used in your marketing copy, because then that's how they know it's for them, and you block out everybody else that you don't want to talk to. So interview your potential customers. Step 3 is to determine how big the problem is. So like, is this a big enough problem to even be looking to scale or grow? And there are 3 main things you want to be doing in that. Is like, so it's what's the total addressable market that you're looking to solve this problem for? It's like, so how big worldwide is this problem? What is the serviceable available market to you? So even if it's a global problem, you're probably going to be starting from a specific market, right? So you act local, but think global. So you start by thinking global, like how big is this problem globally? But locally within the market, I want to start with how big is this problem? Then within the market that I want to start with, which demographic in that market do I want to first address? And how big is that demographic within the market that I want to address? That's the third variable, right? So what's the serviceable, obtainable market for you? And then number 4 is performing your macro analysis on the environment, right? It's like, so what's the economy currently doing right now that may or may not impact my business, right? Are there any policies that are being passed that may impact my business? Is inflation going to be a problem? If so, how can I proactively stop that for my business? And on and on. So those are really the 4 things you want to be considering when you're doing your problem evaluation. And I've tried to put like little pictures there. And out of the problem evaluation, you're going to be coming up with really defining who the target market is that you want to address, right? Because you've now identified a problem, you've spoken to potential customers, you're now trying, you probably found like several groups of customers that have similar problems that you can address. But because you want to, the fastest way to scale is to be very specific, is to talk to a small group of people in a very, very specific way, because then they feel seen, they feel heard, and they're like, oh, this is for me. And they feel more affinity to your product. So post this exercise, there's really 4 things you should then come up with. The main outcome is which of these demographics am I going to focus on? And the way you choose it is by running you through these 5 parameters. Is this person that I'm going to be working with potentially, so this problem I'm solving, is the person I'm solving it for able to pay for the solution? So if, for example, your business is going to be looking to solve things for students, can they afford to pay for the solution you're offering, right? And if they can't, can you find them a way to pay for it? So can they pay? Do they actually care about solving the problem? Are they easy to find? Is it a growing user base? And also, do you also have a unique competitive advantage that you bring into the industry that's going to be new, fresh? That's what the competitors are doing. So those are the 5 things you're then going to be using to weigh or to decide which demographic to pursue or which problems to address first. Hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't, let me know quickly in the chat. Oh gosh, time. Make sense? Yes, thank you guys. Okay, so first statement. So this point, you know who you are, you know your problem statement. Now you've got to define an offer for yourself. So like, how do I then present this offer to people? As we said, you know you have a good offer statement or a good offer when it's easy to articulate, and it feels tailored and targeted to your ideal customer. So your ideal customer should hear your offer statement and feel like, oh my God, I feel seen. This person gets me, right? They should feel understood when they hear your offer statement. And there's 4 components you want to incorporate in your offer statement. Number 1 is the dream outcome that the customers are going to be getting. And usually the dream outcome is aligned to the 4 desires that human beings have, right? It's more money, more love, more health, more time, right? So it's what is the dream outcome, usually aligned to one of these 4. What's the likelihood of them achieving this outcome? How fast is it going to be for them to achieve it? And how much effort will they have to expend to achieve it? So, and again, you want to be focused on the outcome, not on the process. So an example I'm giving here is, instead of saying, I'm selling 6-week career coaching, right? Sounds great, but it doesn't really speak to anybody. It's like, oh, I'm a career coach. Like, that's great. But if you said, for example, get a 6-figure FANG PM role in 6 weeks, in 6 interviews or less, or your money back. First of all, I would have lost maybe a quarter of the audience, but that's exactly what I want, because many people don't know what the heck FANG is and PM is. But the guys I'm speaking to, guess what? They know exactly what that is. FANG, by the way, is the top tech company. So Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, Google, and PM is a product manager role. So it's get a 6-figure project manager role in a top tech company in 6 weeks, in 6 interviews or less, or your money back, right? So by you crafting a product statement that incorporates all 4, and also incorporates language that is only really used within the circles of people you're trying to address, it speaks to a specific customer. And it's then easier for them to then self-identify and come to your offer, right? And it means that you spend less money on advertising as well. Because I said 6-week career coaching, and I put that as an ad on Facebook. You just have everybody clicking on it out of curiosity. But FANG PM is like, what the heck is FANG PM? They don't even register, so they scroll, and you want them to scroll past it, right? Because you want just the people you want to come to you. So the point is, a good offer should actually be Marmite, right? It should repel those you don't want and should attract those you want. Cool. The next one, step 4, is about creating product market fit. This is actually where most of your time really should be spent. And you found product market fit when 3 things align, right? Is you found a problem that people are willing to pay for. You're able to explain your solution clearly in a way that the people you're wanting actually get it and like, oh my God, yes. And also you have a repeatable way of selling to those customers consistently. The goal in this stage is really coming up with your MVP, as it's called, so your minimum viable product. So initially, if you're starting a business from scratch, because I know some people are at idea stage, it's not advisable to build a finished product like from day 0. It's start with the idea, right? So you may start off by saying, okay, I have this idea, I think it might work. Spoken to a few people, I think they get it. Let me first build a landing page, say introducing career coaching, right? Starting in August, register your interest and maybe run ads to that page and see how many people leave their email addresses. Could be a starting point to see, okay, how much interest am I getting? And then as part of the ads, you may want to test different call to actions as well to see, okay, which of these words or which of these languages tend to work the best for my offer, for the offer that I'm putting out to the market, right? So the point is, but what I tend to find is people don't do it like sequentially. People, instead of building like a landing page, trying to do things manually and going step by step, we go straight up to building the product, right? And then we then hustling to get customers in there retrospectively. But if you did it step by step sequentially, if you build a landing page and you run ads through and nobody's coming, then maybe maybe people don't want career coaching, right? At that point, it's cheaper to pivot. It's cheaper to say, okay, wait, this career coaching is not working. Maybe it's business coaching they want. I'll try business coaching instead. So you can try and experiment at this point until you find something that works repeatedly for your offer and what you're trying to create. So that's the whole point of this, right? Is reduce your risk by experimenting until you find what works and works well. And I go on to explain, I suppose, how to do it, which is what I've already just covered right now, right? Is so it's lots of iterations. The point of this step is actually very, very manual. The point of it is you're doing a lot of stuff manually, doing things that do not scale for 2 reasons, because you want to build a loyal customer base. So in the first initial days, you're not trying to make things efficient. It's not about this. At this stage, there's no efficiency here. It's we want to go and get my hands dirty. The most efficient thing you're going to do is to run ads to test different offers that you have and see which offer gets the best response. Yes, for that you can automate. But in terms of actual delivering of the service, the recommendation is actually that you do it manually, because you want to get to really know your first customers really, really well, because you want them to become evangelists for your products. And also for you, you want to know the user journey for those customers intimately, so that when you then come to building an automated solution, you know exactly what the requirements need to be and what you need to build and what you need to automate. So that's what this step really is about, right? Is lots of iterations and testing your offer statement. So once you found product market fit, you now know exactly what to sell, you know who to sell it to, and it's repeatable and it's beautiful. Step 5 is where you're starting to hack, profit hacking, right? And this is where it gets really fun and exciting. But I think before you start to run any kind of marketing campaign, it's important to know who you're talking to, because there are 5 stages of awareness for any kind of product, right? Or 5 stages of awareness of customer bases, right? So the first is customers that are completely unaware that they have a problem, like they have no idea that they have a problem, right? So career coaching, for example, guys that are currently in their career and they're happy, they're like, oh yeah, I get paid 5 figures, but I'm okay. I don't feel like I need to do anything. There's like, yeah, why? There's no need to change, right? So if you're talking to guys that are unaware, a lot of it is going to be educating them and helping them realize that they have a problem, right? then they become problem aware. It's like, okay, I now agree that I have a problem. Maybe I can get a better job, I can get promotions or whatnot. Okay, so I'm now aware of the problem. But I have a problem. Is there a solution? Is there a way to really solve this problem without me getting grey and going for like 10,000 interviews? Then you can then educate them to, okay, no, there is a solution to this problem that you have. At this point, they become aware that, oh, there's a solution to it. And I think, okay, so I know it's possible to solve this problem, but how do I solve the problem? Here is a product that you have to solve the the problem. And then final stage of that is they're fully aware that they have a problem, they know the solution, they have the product, they're aware, but for whatever reason, they haven't yet taken the decision. You're always going to have to put in the bucket, but they know that you're there, but sometimes it's a case of just making them make the move to buy. So they're the warmest of your audience. It's important to know which of these people you're talking to when you're running your ads, right? Because sometimes we run ads and we're not sure who we're targeting. Because ideally, you want to be targeting people that are probably solution aware. Know that there's a solution, but they're looking for a product, right? Because this is probably the warmer of the audiences to talk to, right? But if for whatever reason in your marketplace there's not enough people in this bucket and you're going like further up the chain, then bear in mind you're going to spend a lot more time warming them up to be ready to buy. So again, important to know how big your market is and where people tend to fall within the spectrum. So with that said, once you know that, you then want to design the user journey end to end, right? Okay, so I have a great product, and I know this because I found product market fit. People that I have love my product and they're staying with it. But how can I make sure I can get more people, keep them in my world for as long as possible? And what you do is you design something called a sales funnel or user journey. And essentially, you're taking customers from all the way when they become first aware of your product to when they're offboarded. You want to think about like, how do they become aware of my product? What's my awareness strategy? And this goes back to who you are as a person, right? It's like, what are your strengths as a business owner? Are you good with people? Like, do you enjoy actually going out to conferences and speaking about your product at conferences? Do you enjoy speaking on podcasts? Do you enjoy what comes natural to you, right? Because it's not a one size fits all. This is why you need to know yourself and know your strengths. Because if you're good, for example, at conferences or your network is strong in the industry or you're selling B2B, then maybe it doesn't make sense to run ads, right? But if you don't have those, then maybe you want to focus more on running lots of Facebook ads or Instagram ads or whatever, right? To get people aware of your product. So the strategy will change depending on your personality and your resources. Once they come into your world, how do you nurture them? How do they find out more about you and you start to build more credibility with them as the business owner? So a lot of that is where we talked about like making sure you have the reviews, you have your awards, because I saw your ad on Facebook. At this point, you're still a stranger. How do I know that you're credible? And you're not just going to take my money and just go away, right? This is where if you've invested time in really building that competency and credibility, then it becomes easier for them to be ready to convert into actual paying customers. And then once they've converted, how do you deliver the services? How do you make sure the time between when they convert and when they get value is low? How do you retain them and how do you afford them? So those are the key things you want to consider at this stage. And then if done correctly, you have sustainable and a fast growing business. At step 6 is where you're looking to automate your processes, right? Is you're now growing really, really fast. Like this is going beautifully well. How do you automate? And for this, you're defining your end-to-end process and seeing where any inefficiencies are and working with the development team to look to automate those processes, or also writing down procedures as well. So like either Loom videos, writing like stop documentation so that when somebody's off on holiday, somebody else can pick it up and carry on with it. And that's step 6. And with step 7, you're then at a point where you have this lean, mean operation. So you're getting repeatable profits. You know exactly how to get profits. If you wanted to grow your profit line this month, you know exactly where to run ads and what to do to grow the profit. And you can also add new customers to your business in a way that doesn't increase your operational costs. So you have a very optimal and automated business. At that point, you can then start to look to like, how do I grow and how do I expand this thing? Do you want to go into a new market? Are you at this point ready to hang your boots and sell to an investor? Because now you have a real business that is running, that runs well without you in the picture. Because the hardest part about selling a business is when you're involved in the day-to-day. at that point is not really sellable, but now you remote yourself, can you now sell it to somebody else? So, and that's what this step 7 is about. So with that, you want to talk to your network, find a broker, or maybe even yourself put it on one of the websites to sell a business. And those were the key things I wanted to cover. I think so. What we've learned today are really the 7 steps towards growth. I think most importantly is working on your self-awareness, because the more aware you are of what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, it would inform a lot of all this stuff, right? And also really falling in love with the problem, I think is where I recommend most people spend their time with, even before trying to do any of the other advanced steps. Because when you skip steps, bad things could happen, as we saw in the video.